Right now, the Bungie community is at war with itself over something that probably would have sounded impossible maybe 5 years ago. Some people think Marathon needs to fail so that Destiny can survive. Others think if Marathon fails, Bungie might not survive either. It's gone way beyond just being drama or people throwing insults at games. There's a community out there looking at a studio, wondering if it's going to exist in the next coming years. And what's happened over the past month, I really do think that these questions are getting harder and harder to ignore as a content creator. On June 9th, Destiny 2 shipped its final update, Monument of Triumph. This is basically how Destiny 2 is going to be left for the foreseeable future. Weapons returned, Fair Racing League came back. Basically, a farewell package. Bungie ended live service support for the game. It's going to stay playable, of course. It's not like truly dead. Basically, how the OG Destiny is running today. And throughout all of this, there was a huge campaign to get people to log in, and people did show up. Destiny 2 hit 167,000 concurrent Steam players. I believe that's the highest number in 2 years. Now, that's a big number all on its own. But what makes this all uncomfortable for Bungie, for players, for Sony, is that this is being compared to Marathon, a game that peaked at 88,000 concurrent Steam players, a game that was just released going up against a game that was running for almost a decade, got its last major content drop, was Bungie's bread and butter for so long. And others also added in that it was a free-to-play weekend on Marathon. Do I think it's unfair to compare these games? Absolutely. Does that stop journalists and gaming news sites from clickbaiting and posting rage bait? Absolutely not. But that's the world we live in. You can't have nuance in conversations. And I think that there is a lot to it. I played Destiny. Destiny 1 is honestly one of my favorite games of all time. The people that I met through that game, the memories that I have through that game, the opportunities that I have through that game, it's very special to me. And although I fell off the bandwagon with Destiny 2 for a lot of reasons, I understand that Destiny players feel abandoned at this point. They're not just disappointed, they feel abandoned. They watched the game lose pieces of itself for years while Bungie was talking about new projects and the next phase of the company. While that was happening, campaigns disappeared, PvP support dried up. Something that I loved was the Crucible, and it just never, ever, ever hit its stride. Seasonal content just felt disposable. And again, whole chunks of the game people paid for just got removed. And apparently, Bungie kept most of the Destiny 2 developers in the dark about sunsetting the game while quietly moving resources to Marathon, a detail that I think a lot of people feel like a gut punch happened when it came out publicly. So now people are blaming Marathon even more from taking devs and resources and money from the game that they love. And this has all turned into like a boycott Marathon mentality. Players aren't just skeptical about Marathon. They actively want it to fail because if it fails, that's the only thing that could force Sony to go back towards Destiny. If Marathon succeeds financially and, with a player base and stuff like that, Sony and Bungie learned the lesson that we don't have to go back to Destiny. We have a new game that works. They've gone from Halo to Destiny to now Marathon. And to be honest, Marathon didn't really help itself in the whole grand scheme of things when it comes to player perception. The closed alpha people complain, the plagiarism controversy, the game directors being fired, and scandals and misconduct allegations and stuff like that. The game had an indefinite delay. By the time the game finally launched, the conversation around it had literally nothing to do with whether it was fun or not. And to me, that's the strange part because the game is not bad. I think a lot of these gaming outlets gave Marathon high scores and stuff like that. I do think that the game continues to satisfy players with the updates, with content, with gunplay, and all that stuff. Bungie clearly knows how to make a shooter feel good, but the problem is that none of that mattered once all this trust was gone. One of Bungie's former community managers came out this week and said the only way to keep Bungie alive is to support Marathon, and that the studio's problems started long before Marathon arrived, long before the Sony acquisition. And while you can take that with a grain of salt, I know there are a lot of people that will dispute that source's, like reputation or what they have on the line and stuff like that. I'm just saying this is what somebody said. But what that does is it puts blame somewhere that's harder for people to understand. It's not just Marathon killed Destiny, but I don't think that the community is in the mood for nuance right now. Even more so because it is pretty extreme to think about what Destiny meant to people. For some players, this wasn't just a game that they played on and off again. It was their main game, their main social game, their comfort game. Sometimes their entire online friend group was just through Destiny raids and PvP, day one races. People had built a decade of memories around Destiny, and when Marathon's Steam page is getting like review bombed or comments on YouTube videos and social media just say, why did Destiny have to die for this? Destiny was my home. I do think that these people are actually grieving and are actually upset, and they just want some place to put all of that. Sony's already acknowledged that their financial investment into Bungie is not equal to what they paid at this point. They spent billions of dollars on Bungie, on these IPs, and it's obviously not paying out in the way they planned. Obviously, they didn't pour resources or greenlight Destiny 3. They kept pouring those resources into Marathon, and they still are, and they're hoping that it finds more than just its footing. We're seeing Bungie become more and more a part of PlayStation Studios because of all these quote-unquote failures, the financial impairments, which kind of stinks because the studio that had spent years saying that they just need creative autonomy, that Xbox and Microsoft and Activision and all these things were the reason why they could never really spread their wings, and now they're completely like under Sony control. And for all those people that are like hoping for Marathon to fail or whatever, a collapse of that game and a collapse of the studio doesn't like fix the problem or hit the people that you are supposed to be angry at, like the executives and the C-suite. Instead, it hits artists and engineers and environment teams and music teams and QA testers, the people who are building those worlds that you love. Bungie's already had massive layoffs through the years, and another major failure doesn't damage the brand as much as it changes what the studio will look like on the other side of it. You can look through gaming history. There's full of legendary names that people would assume are going to be permanent. And that was right before they got gutted or dissolved or fired. Now, we've already made that video on Ask Across, and he's one of the biggest Destiny content creators out there. And he said, if bearing Marathon is what it takes to get Destiny 3, he'll do it. And I don't think that's a hot take from him for content or whatever. I absolutely believe that he wants Destiny 3 made. And if it meant Marathon failing and like the studio wouldn't lose people or have layoffs or anything like that, he would be happy. And I'm sure there's a lot of other Destiny players that are like that. Now, does Destiny 2's final update and the player count numbers prove something? Yes, no. Does the petition prove anything? Yes, no. But Destiny 3 isn't announced. Jason Schreier says that, there's not a sequel in development right now. It's not greenlit. But it looks like Bungie's full attention is on Marathon. There are going to be more devs coming over from Destiny now that it's getting sunset to work on Marathon. I assume that means that it's going to get even better and have more content. I know that Destiny 2 was like number one maybe on the Steam like money maker thing for like a day, and I know a lot of people would love for that money to go into Destiny, but it's not. It's going to go straight into Marathon. I don't know if that's comedic irony or sad. I don't know. But this whole thing is just suspended in purgatory right now. Can Marathon succeed enough to justify what Destiny paid for it? For one franchise to end and another to hopefully blossom and begin? Or has trust degraded so badly that every player who returns to Destiny 2 this week is essentially voting with their time against the game that Bungie and Sony are putting everything into? I don't know. I don't know if these numbers are hard for Sony to ignore, if they just don't care, if there's no room for Destiny. I think it's hard for anyone to pretend that these numbers don't mean something. But honestly, I don't know. I really don't know what comes next. I don't know. I mean, somebody at Bungie knows, obviously, and Sony knows what's coming next, but like, the greater studio population, the gaming player population stuff, we don't know. I've always said that Marathon was going to get a year to find its footing, to grow with some of the additions to the game modes and playlists and stuff like that. I do see this game evolving into maybe like Destiny Light. I think Marathon is infinitely cheaper to run than Destiny was between like the content and the updates and stuff like that. I think people don't realize how much it costs Bungie to make and maintain Destiny 2. And that's another reason why Destiny 3 isn't just greenlit, because the amount of money that it would take to make that game is insane. But this is what I will say, and what I'm asking of my viewers is to be respectful. Not everybody is going to want to play Marathon. That's fine. Not everybody is going to care about Destiny. That's fine. But going at each other's throats and blaming each other's games for the downfall of their game or the studio is not helping anyone or anything. Bungie has made some of my favorite games of all time, and I would be super sad to see the studio just close and not exist anymore. I would hate to lose Marathon. I think the Destiny IP shouldn't be dead either. Like, there's so much there that they could do, and I don't know why they never did it. But that's going to do it for the video, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like. If you're on mobile, hype the video up. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel. Like, honestly, all I ask is just please be respectful to each other. Make sure you subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.